Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PGA Draft Cast, brought to you by WinDailySports.com. Just a quick reminder that Win Daily Sports doesn't just cover golf. They cover the NFL, the NHL, MLB, NBA, soccer, MMA, NASCAR, you name the sport. Win Daily Sports has projection models, optimizers, articles, and our famous Discord chat to cover it all. Now, if you click the promo link below and you type in Win Big or Green, you will get 1 week free of Win Daily. And then after that, it is just $5.99 per week for all of that, including some of our betting content. Now, let's get to the PGA DraftCast, where we have proven track records with Joel, Spencer, David, and myself. Let's have some fun. Get in the chat. Make sure you subscribe to the page, and make sure you hit the like button. Let's do this snake draft. Let's do the PGA DraftCast. Let's do it right now.
PGA Nation, we are back. And we are back with another very fun week of golf. Don't let the Masters hangover hold you down, because we're coming back hot with the Heritage at Harbortown with a fully loaded field. It's going to be a really, really fun event this week. We're going to make some more money. Unfortunately, as you can notice, C couldn't make it tonight, but we found a new captain for Team Audience. Joining us tonight, Byron, how you doing?
I am fantastic. You know, we needed a more handsome-looking individual than Sia, so I thought I was a great fit for the show. And, repping, I know we got a few Jets fans in the chat that I typically hang out with there on a Tuesday night that I love to do, and I thought I'd wear the Jets hat for a little recognition. So Jets, 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 Jets. Let's go.
I love it. And I thought it would be a good idea to bring Byron on tonight. You know, I will say, Byron, you were my pick to help captain the audience. So the odds are you're probably going to withdraw at some point in the show. But it's okay. I love the audience as a backup. So no worries there. Spence, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I actually couldn't tell what was on Byron's hat. I thought it was money for a second, and now I see the Jets, which are like the opposite of money. So, I don't know. But I am doing well.
If that hat is any anticipation of what's going to happen in terms of your draft, if you're going to draft like the Jets, I'm happy about where we sit right now. So there's no problem there. David, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, thanks, man. I'm good. What a Masters. I think Jon Rahm was an incredibly worthy champion. It was a time of reflection, right? Because it was a wild week. We had disruptions on the Friday, Saturday through to Sunday, and it ended up with this really weird situation, where we had guys going off both tees for those final two rounds and a lot of thunderstorms in place to try and get that Sunday finish, which we eventually got. In hindsight, Jon Rahm, I pointed out in my article these two tournaments, which are like the key indicators for the Masters. Those are the Century Tournament Champions in Plantation, and the other is the Genesis Invitational at Riviera. Jon Rahm won both of those events. So in hindsight, it's like Jon Rahm is possibly a really obvious pick. On the flip side, he overcame probably what's going to be the biggest weather edge that we see for the entire year. His group, in terms of the tee times, we're playing over 3 shots over par compared to the AM PM guys who went just 0.23 over par. So realistically, Jon Rahm lapped this field by some margin. And I think it's an interesting way to look going into this week of guys who still managed to perform incredibly well despite being on the wrong side of a pretty significant weather edge.
You're absolutely right. It was super impressive what Jon Rahm did this weekend. Like, it wasn't just he played great golf for the weekend. There was a significant edge, right, David? It wasn't just like, it was a little bit of weather edge. The fact that he came through and not only won, but won handily, right? He really won the tournament. It wasn't like he just got there on the birdie in the last hole. And we've said this before, Jon Rahm will have waves. Well, maybe he'll lose a little bit of form. But overall, Jon Rahm over the last 2 years has been super impressive. And it seems like, coming off a Masters win, he's only getting better. So when you do find a course that fits Rahm's game, it's very hard for even a guy outside the top 10 to even compete with him, because he's just so consistent, so powerful, so precise. So Needless to say, I love me some Rahm, and Rahm will definitely be someone that we'll be going back to this season. Before we dive into the draft, Spence, what are you looking for in the course at Harbour Town this week?
So I found this course to be extremely challenging when trying to run numbers this week. On paper, it's this highly strategic layout where we do see driving distance reduced by 15 yards while still featuring this massive impact in strokes gained off the tee difficulty. There's a reason this course always lands inside the top 5 when we talk about the effect it possesses in that area. But I'm not so much a believer in the core answer that most are landing on this week, in the venue being primarily an accuracy setup. Like, sure, you can find yourself in massive trouble when you miss these fairways to the wrong side. The rough is going to be up a little bit, but you also have the tree line nature here. But there's a couple things there. So one, most tee shots land in the same areas. We already know that, but it's an angle issue for wayward drives beyond anything else. Two, because everyone's landing in the same area. I think that's obviously why we can call this a club down course. These are standard answers so far, but I actually think that factor might reward golfers with some distance who have quality, whether it's a 5-wood or iron play that can club down and they're big and strong and they can find these fairways more frequently. To me, that's why golfers like Cameron Young and Cameron Davis have played well here. They have this strength to where they club down easier, and then you get this increase from 125 to 200 yards where 10.7% more shots come from that distance. So that kind of feels like the perfect recipe for success here. And then 3, I don't know if we know what this course is from a metric standpoint, since most golfers that are playing it yearly have been a mixed bag of distance-reduced names in your mix of stars. That does not mean that we're all of a sudden going to start getting, this driver-heavy course where people are going to pull driver out of the bag. But I also don't think the driving distance is going to be as low. And even if we're talking 2, 3, 4 yards here of a difference, that makes a difference to me for some of these guys that club down easier, that have that proximity range. So that's my unique take on it. I know, I'm one of the only people that is viewing it that way. I think most are taking a different approach with it, but that's my one way to try to get different from a model building perspective, rather than trying to land on the same exact answer of accuracy.
I love it. I love it. There you have it. And in my opinion, I do think that this unique course setup does mean that there is kind of some unique golfers that you're going to want to target. I think it's maybe not a good fit for some guys, and it should help you narrow down your player pool this week to make sure you are going after those guys that should be able to have some success on this course. What I'll add to that is, in Harbour Town's previous few years, there's really only been one field similar to this one. Majority of the past few years, it's been a much more watered down JV type of field. So do what you will with that in terms of course history, right? I mean, I still think it matters. Obviously, some guys just like this layout and the putting greens, and I think that there is a little bit of an edge there. But those guys who are consistently getting those top 10s, those aren't top 10s with every golfer in the field this week. So keep that in mind. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pull the draft board up so we can get into the draft. For order, we have to congratulate Greg Ducharme for coming through with an excellent draft last week and taking us all down. So we allowed Byron this week to go ahead and pick the order, and Byron let David go first. He's going to go second, Spencer third, and I will go last. As a reminder, this works like your standard snake draft, 1 through 4. I will get 2 picks, and then we'll go back. You have to draft your lineup within the DraftKings salary. So you can't come in here and just take all the best guys. Make sure you keep salary in mind as you pick your team. Audience, you will be drafting with Byron. You normally draft with him anyway. Just this time you'll get to see him when you do so. Make sure as David gets his picks in, you get your nominations in. But without further ado, David, you're on the clock.
Yeah, and rare opportunity for me. I don't often get the first pick, so I appreciate Byron giving me the chance to lead out with this one. And I think we've seen a trend on the previous shows where we've kind of been going to the top of the board to start the week with our first selections. I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to go and I'm going to grab a guy actually in the 7K range that I think is just hugely undervalued. The ownership probably reflects that. But I'm expecting an extremely good week from Russell Henley, who will be the first pick off the board at the PGA Draft Cast. Coming in off a 4th place finish at the Masters, he's got excellent history on this course, including a 9th place. We saw him win at Mayakoba, another positional golf course where accuracy's at a premium. He's one of the best approach players, particularly in the 100 to 150 yard bracket, which is key for around this course. He's within the top 5 for that on the PGA Tour since January this year, and he's entering in great form. So great course history, and he's hugely underpriced. Obviously, the pricing coming out reflecting the fact that this is a stronger field, but we've seen good history here, and a 4th at the Masters was hugely disproportionate to what we'd probably have expected from Henley entering that week.
I like it. Henley certainly looked good last week. Spence, what do you think about Henley this week at Harbour Town?
Like, obviously he nuked his ownership when he did that at the Masters. I wish that wouldn't have happened because he's a massively intriguing player this week. I worry a little bit about the volatility if he's going to be 15%, but he's also like when the odds released and he came out at 60-1, he was a little bit higher than there at some books. It's probably one of the best values that was out in the market at that time. So to me, at least, he has legitimate win equity in a field that is stacked from top to bottom. So I think from an upside standpoint, Henley's ceiling is really, really high this week.
Boom. There you have it. Russell Henley with their first pick. Byron with the second pick. Who are you looking at?
So I think we're going to need some audience participation here because I've got guys I've got in mind. I've got some highlighted individuals here. But I'm going to let them, I'm vamping a little bit because I don't think they realize that I'm on their team. You know, I'm not going to be going rogue and just picking my own guys as much as I really want to do that and dominate you guys. But I'll let them give some names and then
excuses.
And then I'm going to just, let some, not like a Ben, I'm not going to go Ben Martin off the top rope. So that's out, Lindsay. Sorry. I'm going to need some more names to come in here, but I see one I already like, but there's someone that I really, really want to get nominated. And then who's above $9,400 and lower than 98 that you guys should maybe nominate. And then there we go. Okay, cool. So Sia just nominated Cam Young. And as he's part of the audience, I cannot help but to enjoy that name being nominated because the reason I went second is because I had 2 guys that I was really sure about that I wanted to take first, and he was one of them. The other hasn't been taken yet. So it seems as though David went right off, in the 7K range, which is, a little heel turn there, but we'll let him do his thing. Big fan of Cam Young this week. Great course history. My God, is he playing some good golf right now? And he's got Paul Tesori now on his bag, who's Webb's caddy. He's got great information to give to Cam. And he doesn't even need to give him the basics. He can give him the nuances of this Harbour Town golf course because Cam finished inside the top 5 year last year. And his game translates so well. He's playing fantastic golf. I love his salary saving. Sign me up for Cam Young and sign the audience up for Cam Young.
Well, there you have it. Cam Young is certainly playing some great golf. But David, what do you think about him here at Harbour Town?
Yeah, I think he's a great fit. Spence alluded to this of, it's a positional golf course and accuracy comes at a premium, but it also translates to some of the shortest driving distance on the entire PGA Tour. So of the last few seasons, it's averaged just 274 yards off the tee at Harbour Town. That just indicates that a lot of these guys are going to be clubbing down. And I do think that players like Cam Young, where driving distance is such an asset in their game, perhaps a lot of DFS players tend to shy away just from the fact that they're not going to be able to utilize that full driving distance to the full of their ability. But Cam Young's just an approach machine at the moment. He's absolutely destroying it with the ball striking. That's key for around this course with some of the smaller screens that we'll see the entire year. So I really like the play.
Boom. There you have it. All right, Spencer, I assume you're scrambling. Your pick was taken. Who are you going to rebound with?
So this is very similar to the 1984 NBA draft where Michael Jordan, Byron, by the way, I don't know how many NBA comparisons I can make with you over these last 2 shows. I've turned it more into NBA comparisons and a golf show with it. But Michael Jordan fell to third in that draft. And I mean, I think the answer to most people is at this point, Michael Jordan would be Jon Rahm. But I'm going to say Michael Jordan is Scottie Scheffler here. He is number one in my model in weighted proximity from 125 to 200 yards. He's number one in ball striking. He's number one in GIR percentage, inside the top 5 for par 5 average, including becoming second in par 5 birdie or better percentage. Scottie Scheffler, if a putt can just go in for him, he's going to win a tournament. Like, he's the best ball striker in the world right now. And I tend to think that a club down spot for him is actually a good tournament. That might not be the prototypical answer that a lot of people out there would give, but I mean, ownership wise, it looks to be that way, but I do really, really like Scottie this weekend. That's one of the reasons why I have such an my betting card is a one-man card because I'm kind of afraid Scottie Scheffler is going to win and I don't want to dump a lot of money into this tournament. So give me Scottie Scheffler at $11,000 flat.
So does his putter have the flu then, or is that the correlation trying to make with Jordan? Or
I mean, that's a perfect fit. We can call it that right now, and we know what he did in the flu games. So this looks like a win to me.
I think in terms of the putting, just to touch on that, because it is smaller greens, you are going to see less of those long range putts that perhaps plague some of these guys. You know, there may be more emphasis on around the green for me than on putting in general. And we saw just last year, Jordan Spieth won this tournament losing strokes putting. Shane Lowry was third, probably should have won, and lost strokes putting as well. So there is kind of a tendency around this course that putting maybe isn't as emphasized, which for Scheffler we know is his biggest flaw. I mean, he was one of the worst putters last week at the Masters in the entire field. And if he'd putted it anywhere close to even or above, he would have easily been top 5.
Yeah, and what we can add to Scottie is, long term, he's not as bad of a putter as, guys like Morikawa or, Thomas. So I would expect that to bounce back and then, he'll get that corrected. And, the ball striking is not going anywhere. So the ownership number does look pretty high. I was thinking that maybe because, relatively to Scottie, it was maybe a slightly disappointing Masters, even though he still played pretty well. Maybe the ownership would come down a little bit at 1,100, but it didn't. But I would agree. I mean, if there's somebody that is going to come out here and be the expected winner for me right now, I got to think Scottie is the favorite.
And then just really quickly, just to touch on what Jimmy just said in the chat a second ago, Jordan did go third in the draft. It was Akeem Olajuwon, Bowie, and Jordan third.
Poor Bowie. Anyway, all right. Well, I am up. I got 2 picks. So I have to make sure I can just get somebody that plays in the tournament. If I can do that, I'm a good start. We'll probably end up with my first pick. I'm going to take someone that will likely end up getting thrown out of the tournament for playing too slow. And you know what? My biggest concern with Cantlay this week is that is that in his head, because everyone's talking about his slow play, and is he going to go out this weekend try and play faster or just not be himself because he doesn't want the nerves, or does he not care? And is he going to go out there, play super slow, and dominate the field, which is what I'm hoping, and this is why he's my first pick. What the reasons behind it are: he's got a tremendous course history. He clearly likes this place. Of his last 5 tries out here, he's got 4 top 10s and 3 top 5s. So he's on the brink of taking one down. I think if he gets, and he's playing great. I mean, his ball striking has been there. He wasn't great on Sunday at the Masters, but he had a really great week. The ball striking has been there. He's got a phenomenal short game in putting. So this does feel like a spot for maybe Cantlay to finally break through and get a win this season. So I'll start there. And then with my second pick, I'm going to lean on some value. I want to be able to get some guys who I think can compete, but maybe not in the upper echelon. Guy I really like this week for a lot of similar reasons is Shane Lowry. At 8,300, you're getting a really good value here. He's another guy with a tremendous course history. In his last 4 tries, he's got 3 top 10s, 2 T3s. Again, he's another guy whose ball striking has been there. He's in really good form right now. So to match his ball striking in form to a course that we know he really likes, I think is a really good opportunity for Lowry to give us a really good result. How about you, Byron? Are you looking at Lowry this week?
I don't mind Cantley. He was one of my two guys I was going to go for. I just can't stand Lowry. His putting has just been too bad for too long, and I don't think the course history is reflective of what he's playing at right now. It might be an oversight in my part, but to get back to Cantley, though, if you see his Twitter account, it's generated by a robot. So I don't think he's seeing like what we're talking about online, unless someone's like telling him, hey, you are just molassously slow right now. Like, get it together. What's going on? I also don't think he cares. He's such a confident individual. I don't think the slow play is a problem. I think the internet's just blowing it out of proportion because everyone had Brooks tickets and he was playing bad and they're blaming it on him.
I think that's fair.
Fair. Yes, it was. I mean, if you watch it, it was going really slow, and there had to be a reason for it. And it was annoying, but I think, you make some good points. So, all right, Spence, with the second pick, who are you looking at here?
I don't think I'd have to take this golfer right now, but I'm going to just because to me, there are a couple players, and Cantlay would fall into that mix. I think there's 3 golfers that are maybe not getting the results week in and week out. Like they're competing, and Cantlay and Scheffler being more so on the competing end than player I'm about to name right now. But there's 3 golfers that I feel like any week are ready to pop and win an event. And obviously Scheffler, Cantlay fall into that mix. The third one is going to be somebody who I only see at 13% ownership right now, but I want to make sure I lock him in because it's the only outright bet that I have. And that is Tony Finau at 9,400. I think Finau is ready to pop like in a big way at one of these moments. And there's a couple reasons for it. So he's number 2 in my model in weighted tee to green over the past 24 rounds. He is also number 14 over the past 24 rounds in putting. Now, this is a golfer that is struggling to provide top 10 finishes. He's kind of landing in this top 25 zone over and over again here, but something has to give based off of that answer. And I think when everybody thinks about Finau, they think about distance with him. Tony Finau is not necessarily a distance golfer anymore from the 2-year regression model that I'm running. He is 33rd for me over that duration of time in driving distance. I don't think that's the answer people would expect. I don't know why that is for it. I couldn't give you that answer to it. But if you can tell me he can club down, he can use the weighted proximity from 125 to 200 yards, which places him 3rd. And then he's also 3rd in my model in ball striking. It's kind of the perfect recipe for what I am trying to find here for a golfer that is like a prototypical club down spot in the same breadth of what we're looking for in Cam Young, just maybe a little bit less distance at this point of his career right now.
There you have it. I think that makes sense. I think, Tony's the guy that I think we've heard a lot of people say, like, it's hard to get him right? Like, he'll pop some weeks and then you don't play him and then he doesn't pop the next week. So I'll root for you on that one, but you didn't make my player pool this week.
If you play him every week, Joel, it's got to be right eventually.
Well, maybe the week when it's the 3M Open and it's only Ches Reavie to go up against. He'll definitely be. No, I actually do think he could have a good week here. This week. I'm just having fun with you. So, Byron and the audience, you guys are on the clock. Get your nominations in. Byron, who are you looking at or leaning on with your second pick here?
Yeah, no, Joel, that was some seriously funny stuff there. I know you and I chatted about Tony yesterday, and we agreed, like, he's just an average between 20 and 5th all the time kind of guy. So I'm going to need the audience to get a little more alive here. I don't know why we're obsessed with Justin Thomas at $8,900. I'm not going to go there. I'm so sorry. I can't afford to put Justin Thomas in my lineup at 20% ownership playing the way he is right now. Like, is he automatically just going to miraculously play better golf? But I'm seeing a Xander and a Tom Kim who starts exciting me a little bit more, especially with Tom Kim sitting a little lower down there. But yeah, the JT gate is going to be a thing we're going to close that gate immediately. And We're going to go with Xander. I'll take Xander. That's been committed so far. We are now going to have some salary issues, folks. So we're going to have to get some value plays on the board for us. But I love Xander this week, in particularly because he's one of the best golfers from 175 yards to 200 yards. And you're going to see about a quarter of approach shots come from that range. Like Spencer was mentioning earlier, we're going to see a lot of shots for all golfers come from the same area. The par threes, the layups on par fours, all going to be in that range. Xander is one of these guys that is incredibly consistent. He's going to be inside the top 20 more often than not. And I think his driver issues has been one of his biggest flaws coming into this week. And going to a course like this, you're going to see a lot less driver off the tee anyway. And we'll see some 3-irons, 3-woods, things like that. And I think he's really solid from those ranges. So a lot to like about Xander. No JT. I'm sorry, folks. It's a fade on me there.
I like Xander. And one of the things I want to do this week, or what I've been doing, was looking at last week and seeing which guys struggled in the storm, and kind of give them some grace for that day. Xander kind of played well all week. He was fine. I think you're right. I think Xander is kind of due for another big result. So I like Xander this week. How about you, Dave? Are you going to have Xander in your player pool?
I will have him in my playing pool. I'm not going to be overweight on him. I'll probably be at most at field average for him. Obviously the ball striking, as Byron mentioned, is pretty phenomenal. I do have some slight concerns around the green, and I do think he gets missed a little bit in that range compared to some of the other names that people would like to go to, or if they're going straight to the top to the Schefflers and the Cantlays and the Rahms of the world, it becomes quite difficult to get to Xander at 9,300 in your lineup. So I kind of like the beginning of the construction there, going with two guys in the 9K, and then the audience is going to have to drop down a little bit and go to the sort of mid sevens, which coincidentally I'm going to make more difficult for them by taking two guys in that range straight out of your pool. So I'm going to take Chris Kirk for me, right there in that 7K range. Another player who was in the wrong wave at the Masters, still managed to finish 23rd, which was an excellent result for him. Gained across the board other than off the tee, and that was largely down to driving distance, which we know isn't the strongest part of Chris Kirk's game. Recent winner at the Honda Classic. PGA National is a really good comp for this course here. Prior to that, he was third at the American Express and third at Sony Open. So American Express, again, Pete Dye Designs within that rotation. And third Sony Open, another shorter kind of positional golf course. So Chris Kirk's in really good form. His ball striking has really improved since January, and it kind of hasn't gone backwards since then. So I think that we're seeing some really good gains there. And the comp courses really check out really well for me. So I think he's fantastic value down there. I like his morning tee time as well, so he might feature a little bit later in the show. The other guy's Matt Kuchar. I think Matt Kuchar just gets overlooked because he's 44 years old, and we kind of think that, he might be a bit past his prime, but he's playing excellent golf at the moment. He was third recently at the Texas Open, his last start. He wasn't in the Masters field, so he's got none of that fatigue that some of these guys would have had from literally being at Augusta National from dawn till dusk while the rounds got played. Prior to that, he made it out of his group, was the huge underdog to get out of his group at the match play, and managed to do so. And his history around Heritage is excellent. So third last time out in 2022, never missed a cut here, and obviously a prior champion as well in 2014, champion at the Players, champion at Mayakoba. So all these positional kind of courses where driving actually had a premium. Matt Kuchar shows up, and I expect him to be there again this week.
There you have it. I'm definitely on both those guys, particularly like the Kirk call myself. How about you, Spence? Are you looking at either Kirk or Kuchar this week?
So fun fact about Matt Kuchar, I think $7,700 is what he owes his caddy. So that's a fun fact there. But no, I'm okay with both of them. It's a tough board, and it's the answer I keep going back to. When we think that, or I shouldn't say when I think the pricing at the top is correct, there's only so many names once you get down into the $7,000 section that I view as being playable. And that's where David has actually made a really, really smart start by going with 3 of those options here. So he has turned this into a very difficult board for everybody else. And it probably was the optimal strategy that he took from the number 1 spot.
I like it. I like it. All right. Audience, Byron, you are on the clock with your 3rd pick. Who are you looking at here?
So I'm not liking anything that the audience has put through so far.
If you don't take Ben Martin, you're going to be thrown off the show.
I'm just kidding. I wanted to get the audience riled up because that's what I want to do. Yeah. There's a guy that's been mentioned, and it's not Ben Martin, unfortunately, but he was in my Motorboard article that we did I did a fortune cookie filter where you take some key stats that you want to have each golfer do they want to be above average in each of these essential categories that I have. And typically it kicks out guys that are like $8,500 and higher. JJ Spawn kicked himself out in that fortune cookie filter. And it makes a lot of sense. He's going to be a guy that for his price, you want him to be above average in all of those key areas. And those key areas are some nice proximity numbers around the green play. He's fantastic putting on Bermuda from 5 to 15 feet. He's just playing really good golf now. I think he's trending in the right direction from some match play things that we saw. He's just vibing pretty hard from that. And I think his game translates really nicely to this kind of a golf course. So JJ Spawn's our guy. I saw multiple people mention him, so I'm not taking one off the top rope. Yeah, I think JJ's a team audience pick in unanimity. And if that's even a word, the Busch Lights are starting to kick in now, and we're having a good time with our roster. I love it.
There you have it. JJ Spawn is a surprising pick for me. How about you, David? Are you on JJ Spawn?
I am, and if you're in the Win Daily Discord, you would have seen him within my selections this week at massive odds of 140 to 1. He's played well at this time of year. Obviously, won the Valero Texas Open around this time of year back in 2022. He's trending into good form again. He played very well at the Masters last year, and I think he'll be slightly disappointed just to have missed out on the field by a whisker. So I really like him in that 6,900 range. I think he is criminally underpriced. I think he's excellent value, like his tee time as well.
There you have it, JJ Spawn. All right, Spence, with your 3rd pick, you're going to need to get some value. Where are you looking?
I'm going to take a chalky player that I'm going to get a little bit of value with, and I'll try to get different at some other point here. But I'm going to take Siwoo Kim at 7,600. So he is 5th in my model when I ran it for Harbor Town from a weighted tee to green perspective. That is 17 spots above his baseline for me. He's also been historically great on these Pete Dye, Jack Nicklaus sort of designs. And he's inside the top 10 from that weighted proximity from 125 to 200 yards. So I like Siwoo Kim. We're kind of starting to hit like to me, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to count them, but there's a handful in the $7,000 range that are playable. And then when you get down into the $6,000 range, there's really only a couple golfers I like. And funny enough with it, JJ Spawn would be one of those names that I am also on this week. So with him removed from the player pool, I'm going to condense this down a little bit more rather than trying to get myself into the $6,000 range. Is probably giving away too much strategy here, but I try to filter this out with some $7,000 golfers to wrap this up.
All right. So who was your pick?
Siwoo Kim.
Siwoo Kim. There you have it. Byron, are you considering Siwoo Kim at all this week?
I know Spencer mentioned he's going to get a little different elsewhere, but I'm not necessarily that interested in what Siwoo gets up to on this course at that kind of ownership this week. I'm seeing him a little high this week for me, but also I'm not necessarily a Siwoo guy. I think if you're a Siwoo dude, you're a week in, week out kind of a player. I think he pops for you if you like him that way. Although, he's played relatively well around you. I don't dislike him. I think just the ownership's turning me off him a little bit.
Makes sense. That makes sense. I certainly like the price for Siwoo this week. That is for sure. All right. I got my 2 picks here. And I'm going to try and do my strategy here is to try and go as balanced as I can with Patrick Cantlay I don't want to dip down too far into that 7K range if I don't have to. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to take Sungjae Im and Tyrell Hatton. So what I'm doing here, I'm really trying to get guys with upside in this 8K range that I think can compete. If Patrick Cantlay wins and Hatton, Lowry, and Sungjae can get me top 10s, I think I'm going to have a very, very competitive lineup. Both guys, these are good course fit for both these guys. So, we know they have that top 10 upside. We're getting a good course fit. The course history is even there with both of them. There's just a lot to like. So I think it's also different because I think a lot of people are going to be going up and playing Scheffler and Cantlay and probably getting 2 studs. And if you do that, you can't really go fully balanced like I'm doing. So it's my way of kind of getting a different type of build with some upside. How about you, David? Are you playing either Sungjae or Hatton this week?
I mean, we've obviously got the wrist injury with Tyrell Hatton. So now that you've drafted him, 100% guaranteed he withdraws from this tournament. I mean, last week, not only did 2 of Joel's players withdraw, but Will Zalatoris is now out for the entire season after ending up on Joel's team. So that tells you everything that you need to know about what's going to happen with Tyrell Hatton this week. I really like Sanjay, though. I think that his approach play really trends well for here. And he could be the strongest driver in this golf course. He's that rare combination of distance along with accuracy, which around Heritage could just see him absolutely stripe this field. So I really like the in-play.
Yeah, you're right. We're not going to see Zalatoris again this year. And we're probably not going to see Kevin Na again this year on the PGA Tour. So it's not a good record for my draft guys that withdrawn from the tournament. I'm getting kind of flashbacks of Paul Casey all over again, and it's not good. So I got to right the ship. My priority now is just get guys that play. Don't even worry about if they play good. Just play. That's enough. All right, Spence, with your 4th pick, who are you looking at?
Yeah, and I also like the Sungjae pick. I think we're in a position where the price continues to be too cheap on him. So I don't think it's some we've seen bigger ownership percentages on Sungjae in the past. At 16, 17%, you can still find a way to work around it. I have no problem with that. I am going to go to a golfer at 7,500, and I'm going to take Gary Woodland. I have massive concerns about the short game, but it's kind of the answer that David alluded to earlier in the show. Small greens. I think that some of that gets lost. If you want to tell me that Woodland's problem ends up being his sand save percentage, I could buy that. I think that's a big potential problem that he could run into. But this is vintage Gary Woodland ball striking with the numbers that I've gotten from him in 2023. And I'm willing to bet on that upside. Like, he's 7th in this field in strokes gained off the tee over the last 24 rounds. He's 19th in my model in strokes gained approach. I think there's a lot of upside here. I know he just played 4 tough, hard rounds at the Masters, but I think this is a good course setup for him on these small greens here.
I really like Gary Woodland. I liked him last week too. I was playing him in Showdown. The ball striking is definitely there. And I think you nailed it. I think the small greens, like, his putting is his downside, and he's never going to be an elite putter. But if these small greens neutralize that putting a little bit, I think he can compete with the top dogs with the ball striking. So I think that's a really good value pick there. How about you, Byron? Are you looking at Gary Woodland at all this week?
No, I'm not. I'm just like hashing on Spencer's picture. Gary's short game is a big issue for me. And I think that around the green play in particular is something I'm weighing quite heavily this week. And I think Gary, unfortunately, just can't quite get there for me on that respect. But I've just never played him. I just let him do his thing. I saw him at the top of the Masters, and I was very surprised. So maybe, he's kind of figured some stuff out, or maybe it was a flash in the pan. But I can't necessarily say I'm going to be too pumped about Woodland. There's someone else that's $400 more expensive that the audience has mentioned that I'm in on. So,
all right, well, we're on the edge of our seat. Who is it?
Cool. But before we get there, I know Zach Jeff has mentioned that the police are showing up to your house, but I think it's more the ambulance that's dropping off like half your lineup from last week. So I just wanted to put that out there. Good liner there, Zach. So Corey Connors was mentioned by the chat, and I've got him here highlighted pink for myself, and I love what we're getting from Corey Connors. If you go and take a look at Waialae Country Club, Seaside golf courses, Plantation and Seaside at the RSM Classic, take a look at Colonial, some beautiful calm courses that Corey Connors is rating out 3rd in my model at, and he's just a ball striking feast. beast. Sorry, he's a feast and a beast, but he's going to feast on the ball striking here this week. And I love, I just said, I don't like Gary Woodland because of the short game. And here we are busy playing Corey Connors. So Spencer, take that with a grain of salt. But just so much to like about Connors this week. I think his consistency, he's that little ropey draw off the tee each time he goes. And he's played nicely around here. And he missed the cut last week, so he's not having to dry out his socks and shoes. He's going to be just fine going into the week this week. And I really like Corey Connors at that price. Expect only one from him this week too.
I like it. Corey Connors is a good bounce back candidate. Certainly, of course, he likes. I am a little concerned on the ownership number on him, but how about you, Spencer? Are you looking at Connors at all this week?
I mean, even if I like Corey Connors, I feel like at this point I have to just say I hate it to equal this out a little bit. So I hate the pick. Worst pick I've ever seen, Byron.
Well, the battle is on. There is a battle between Spencer and Byron audience team this week that is heating up. I like this rivalry. I think this battle needs to be tracked. I think there should be a wager on it, maybe. I think something needs to happen between this matchup. So
you know what's really funny, Joel, is we did a 2-hour master show together. And this is exactly what happened for 2 hours. I said I liked the player. He didn't. He said he liked the player. I didn't. I think the results for the most part ended up being 50-50 on it. Like, you were correct on the Cameron Young call where I wasn't, and I was correct in some other areas with it. But I don't know. I'm all jokes aside, I don't want to give an answer like that. Like, Connors is fine this week. He grades well in my model.
Boom. There you have it. All right, we're back to you, David. You got two here. You have plenty of money to spend. Where are you going with that?
Yeah, just to touch on Connors quickly, I only have him at 8% ownership, which I think is a reaction to the fact he was such like mega chalk last week and burned so many people that, you know, if we just put a line through it and look at his metrics, he seems to suit this course pretty well. And if we're looking at guys like Luke List, who have played really well around the Heritage, then Corey Connors and Gary Woodland kind of fit that bill of guys who can't putt, but who can strike the ball. I'm going to make perhaps a slightly surprising pick, but it goes back to what's been saying in his course breakdown about guys like Cam Davis, who have played really well here, managing to club down off the tee, and that's Wyndham Clark. I don't know why Wyndham Clark is priced as low as he is. I mean, Data Golf at the moment have him ranked in the top, I think he's 32nd. Let me just confirm that. But they have him rated extremely highly, and his official World Golf ranking has not met that projection. Yes, they have him 26 on Data Golf. World Golf ranking is 84th. That for me is always a prime spot where we're going to expect to see some correction at some point, where those metrics eventually play out into a win. Wyndham Clark has the driving accuracy off the tee issue, which I think a lot of people are going to go off him off the back of that. The fact is he's gained on driving accuracy his last two appearances at this course compared to the field. He gained on driving accuracy at the Players' Championship. He gained on driving accuracy at the Valspar Championship. So he has shown a tendency at these courses where he does need to be more positional, that he can club down off the tee given his distance. And his approach metrics are just like absolute fire at the moment. So 6th in Punta Cana, whatever, weaker field, but still a good performance. But 5th at the Valspar, he was 27th at the Players. He hasn't missed a cut since the Shriners at October last year, where myself and Spence went and watched the first round there together. So he's in absolutely fire form at the moment, and I expect him to really, really pop at this course at just a ridiculously cheap price for me. That leaves me in a position where I've got a ton of money, so I'm going to go and get one of the studs, and I'll take Colin Morikawa, possibly the greatest approach player in the game right now. Driving accuracy is obviously on point. He performed really well at the Masters, and I don't think the Masters is the best course for Colin Morikawa. You need distance off the tee, and last week, more so than most, a really wet Masters where it was playing incredibly long. I mean, that course was playing at like 7,800 yards realistically when we take into the fact that the run out just wasn't there, and he finished in a great position. So I think this is a course that fits him better, and he's playing some really good golf, and if he won, would be absolutely no surprise whatsoever.
I love both your picks. I think that was a really great turn you just had there. Not much I need to say about Morikawa. Everyone knows what Morikawa is, ball shaking. But I want to touch on Wyndham Clark. I made a main lineup that I'm going to play this week, but I had Wyndham Clark in too. I love Wyndham Clark this week. And one of the reasons is all the reasons you said, the ball striking is there. I actually think this is a good course fit from the fact that, like you said, I think it can neutralize his biggest weakness, which is the wildness off the tee. But the biggest thing about Wyndham Clark is there's a few guys in the 7K range that are looking very chalky. And it just feels like everyone's going to those guys, and Wyndham Clark's not one of them. And I do think he possesses as much, if not more, upside. So I think he's a great pivot in the 7K range to be able to play someone with a lot of upside where you can get away from kind of that chalk that everyone's going to.
I mean, I have him at the moment at 5.5%, and he's priced at $7,600, which just seems absurd to me.
Agreed. Because I originally had a few other guys in the 7K range there, and I was just like, at this ownership, it just makes way more sense to play Clark than pay up at the 15 to 20% ownership. So I am definitely with you on the Clark pick. All right, Byron, your fifth pick here. You got a decent amount of money to spend. Where are you and the audience going to go?
Yeah, and just a quick if you're struggling to figure out if a guy that's got accuracy off the tee is a problem, Wyndham Clark is one of the best iron players, and he's also one of the longest iron players, hitters on tour. So if you've got really good iron play and you hit it really far, it means you can probably hit a 3-iron like 250 yards. And that's what you need on this golf course. So he's going to hit it pretty straight. So love that pick, David. I really like Wyndham Clark. And I have got zero qualms with what the audience is suggesting today. I, in fact, have a JT Poston outright. I mean, you can't deny how well, this golf course has got really good correlation history for past success. And JT Poston has the second best course history behind Patrick Cantley in my model over the last 5 years. If you're taking an average strokes gained approach on that thing, he's fantastic. I think he's missed one cut and then had 3 top 10s. So just everything about JT Poston's game makes, like, I try to explain earlier on my pod why he plays well around here. And I just look at his stats and it doesn't make sense. So I was just mumbling my way through it. But if you're going to go off of purely course history and looking at his recent ball striking, kind of trending in the right direction, he's stopped missing those 5-foot bricks. He's not throwing bricks from 5 feet anymore. Played nicely at Augusta. A lot to like about the postman going into Harbour Town, folks. I love the audience pick there. Very easy to make that decision.
There you have it. I like JC Poston a lot. I was going to take him with one of my last 2 picks if he was left. So nice. I think he's a good pick here. My one concern is that because of his incredibly good course history and what we said earlier in that this is a much better field than we typically have at this course, I do think he'll probably end up over-owned than he should be. But if you're going to play someone at 7,300 to make your lineup work, I think he's as good of a shot as anyone else in that range. All right. How about you, Spence? Your 5th pick. Who are you looking at?
I am a glutton for punishment with this player, and the ownership is a little bit higher than I would care to see, but I actually think it's lower from the course history that he's provided just because of the current form that he's been bringing to the table. But I am going to play Cameron Davis at 7,100. I'm not going to give a long answer to this. I mean, it really comes down to the par 5 scoring that he has and the weighted proximity. I think a club down spot has historically been very good for him. We don't have to look any further than the 2 top 25s that he's had here, but you can look at a lot of other courses out there where the same answer comes into play with him. So I think Davis's upside sometimes tends to be better at these courses, 7,200 yards and less. Then when we get these bomber fests where, yes, he has the distance, but that inaccuracy kind of bites him in the ass sometimes.
There you have it. I think it makes a really good point. Through the sake of time, we'll keep this thing moving and we'll get these kind of final few picks in. Cameron Davis, I have no problem with anyone playing 7,100. I think he's certainly someone in that range that can post a good result. My last 2 picks, I've got to find some value. There's a handful of guys here that I was weighing between. But I'm going to end up with my first pick is going to be Matt Wallace. Matt Wallace is someone who I think is just playing really well. His ball striking, his round the green game, his overall game is really strong. I think I'm just going to go on form. And his course history is really not bad either. But at 7,300, I think you can get another good result from Wallace this week. And then I'm going to pair him with – I'm actually right now deciding between 2 guys. And I'll just tell you who they are. It's between Sam Ryder and Seamus Power. Seamus Power being just the long term, have been playing really well. It feels like the safer bet. It's definitely a lot more volatility in the Ryder pick. But Ryder's putting is unreal right now, and it's been consistently unreal. The last tournament he played, he gave his third place finish, and he paired it with ball striking. Where you kind of cringe a little bit with Ryder is off the tee, which again, can this be a spot where he neutralizes that and then just has a great result? So I'm going to go for the upside play with Ryder in my last pick. And hope that he has one of those nuclear weeks where he just makes every putt, strikes the ball well, and maybe gets us a top 15 or something like that. All right, Spence, with your last pick, who are you looking at?
I have like one of those good versus evil situations going on right now on my shoulders where the one side is just screaming to take Webb Simpson because it needs to be done. And then the other side is like saying that's probably not the best decision to be made here. Specifically, I give that answer too because of the ownership I have. Like, I have some reduction in Gary Woodland, but there's a lot of chalk here with Scheffler, Finau. I think Siwoo's one of the most popular players in the $7,000 range. Cameron Davis is going to be super popular. So I'm going to take a golfer that I think is relatively safe at $7,000 to make the cut. And hopefully I can get more out of him. If he can come top 40, all the better with it. But I'm going to take Steven Jaeger at 7,000.
I'm a fan of Jaeger. Usually a value play guy I like to target. How about you, Byron? Will you have any Jaeger in your lineups this week?
I assume we can just pass it.
No, I'm joking. I actually like Jaeger. I think he's a great fantasy option. I like what he can provide you from a point scoring perspective, and just he's volatile and not a lot of people know about him. And I think the fact that I'm scrambling to kind of give a reasonable answer about him is exactly proving my point. So I'll join Spencer on that one.
I'll tell you what, I'll even make this deal. If Jaeger wins the tournament, I will do a Jaeger bomb on the next draft cast for you, Spence.
I appreciate it. It might happen. I don't think he's going to win the tournament, but I do think he's good value in, like, I think he's a good top 40 bet at plus 150. That's an intriguing value for me for a golfer that has been relatively safe to begin this season.
Yeah, and listen, he doesn't need to win the tournament to pay off his 7K price tag. If he gets you top 25, right? I think that would do it. So, all right, Byron, with the last pick, you in the audience doesn't have too many nominations in. You have 9,100. You got plenty to spend on this last pick. Where are you guys looking?
I know it's disappointing because the only options they're giving me is a guy I've shot down already. So we're gonna grab him back out the ambulance that's parked in the back of Joel's yard and maybe throw him into our lineup here unless something comes through. But the people are calling for JT, and I'll, as an audience advocate, I'll let it slide. We can't all have what we want. But if I did, I would have gone Max home at $9,100. I just think Max is just way more consistent than JT right now, and he's won 3 times this year. Like, are we just gonna? What happened to Max at the Masters is something that was most likely going to happen anyway. It was one thing Spencer was right about on our show. Is I was a very big Max homer, and it wasn't the right call because the course history it doesn't fit his game. I don't know why he struggles around there, but he does. Maybe the moment's just too big for him, but I think Justin Thomas is going out of the top 10 in the world rankings, and Max Homer's entered the top 10. He's 5th in the world right now, won 3 times. Why do we want JT over Max Homer, audience? I don't know, but we're going with JT. So it is what it is, unless we can get an amendment on a JT gate, but I think we're going to have to go with him.
I gotta say, the rivalry is heating up. I heard that subtle jab, one thing you got right last week. That's tough, I like it.
No, I said one of the things. We were disagreeing all the time.
Play back the tape. I agree with Joel on that one.
The battle continues. All right, David, with the last pick in the DraftCast this week, how are you closing out this lineup?
Yeah, I'm going to look to actually leave a bit of money on the table. Again, I just think it makes me a little bit different. I kind of probably favor this kind of middle build kind of lineup this week. I think this is such a peculiar golf course compared to what we see on the PGA Tour really for the entire year that you can get a little bit different and stick with some of those guys down the middle. I'm between 2 names. I've got Matt Fitzpatrick and Tom Kim, who I can afford both. Matt Fitzpatrick, for me, I think that we can actually put that injury aside a little bit now. His ball striking has been really good, and the putting and the around the green game is really starting to trend in the right direction again. He had a great week at the Masters, finished 10th. Before that, the match play was pretty indifferent, but the biggest game for me was that his approach play really started to trend in the right direction at the Masters. I'm going to go to who I think is possibly one of the best course fits in Tom Kim. We still don't know exactly what this guy's ceiling is. 22nd in the world, according to Data Golf. Driving accuracy, approach around the green, all key aspects for success this week for me. He ticks all of those boxes in spades. And we began to see him turning it around at the Masters last week, in my opinion, when he was 16th. I think we all expect Tom Kim to just go out and win every tournament because the talent we can see is obviously there. And we have to remember this is still a really young golfer, but he hasn't missed a cut since January. So he's in reasonable form. Is it the elite form that we perhaps expected him to just carry on with? No, but I think the win at the Sedgefield Country Club, the win at the Wyndham Championship is really highly correlated to here, and I expect him to go out and have a good week. He profiles kind of similar to Colin Morikawa in that respect.
Well, you'll never get a complaint from me about Tom Kim. I love me some Tom Kim, and I agree. This does seem to be a course fit, so I like that pick. One thing I did find really interesting is we've only drafted one player below on the 6K. Other than that, we stayed above it. Tells you what you need to know. I think with these loaded fields, it's tough for those guys to get up and compete. There's a certain kind of caliber of golfer that you kind of need when you start getting the likes of everyone in the field. So interesting thought, but we're not done yet. Please do us a favor before we wrap up the draft. Hit the like button. Give us a follow. It goes a long way. We're going to post these lineups, and everyone's going to want to know who won between Byron and Spencer, because this rivalry is heating up, and this is the inaugural matchup. So we'll post it. We'll let you know. Follow along. But before we do, let us know which team you guys think is going to win. Who are you liking to come out best on Sunday?
Before we go, though, it sounds like the chat was just chatting about JT. So can we change Justin Thomas to Max Homa?
After another pick was taken?
Scandal.
They were just discussing it. So I was just being courteous and trying to just, put the show in the right direction. But I would feel terrible putting Justin Thomas in if they were just literally talking about him. But also it's up to you guys.
Can we propose something? Why don't we, for the next minute, audience, go hard in the chat. Whoever gets the most names, Homer or Thomas, is the audience's pick. You've got 1 minute starting from now.
Go. Yes,
go.
I like that.
All right, audience, you got 1 minute. While you do that, I'm going to take the draft board down. I'll leave it up just in case we have to make a change. I'll leave it up for now. Guys,
what I want to talk about actually is a little bit is that you mentioned about the 6K guys. I've got a couple of names down there that people should possibly be considering. Andrew Putnam, for me, I think he rates really well. I think he's got upside. He advanced in the match play as well from his group, and he's in decent form. So I think he's worth having a look. I like Ben Griffin down there as well as Joel Damon and Brendan Todd. I mean, this is the kind of course where Brendan Todd has to play well because he just simply can't compete at some of those other tournaments where you are going to need a bit more distance off the tee, and he's got very, very good history here. So I think that that those are options. I'm not seeing many names in the chat, so maybe you guys just want to stick with Thomas. You've got two options: Justin Thomas, Max Homa. Audience, this is your moment to shine.
Listen, I've seen enough at this point. There hasn't been anything there. No change. The pick stays. And then what's going to happen? Justin Thomas is going to go out and have a great result. Lindsay, you are way too late.
Lindsay, she's in at the bell.
I mean, I'll give my 2 cents here. I'm fine letting Byron do it. I don't know if you saw during the show, I was on my phone. I was sending a complaint to Rotoballer, so Byron might be out of job at that company at this point. So let him have Max Homa as a parting gift here.
I'm going to allow it because Spencer gave you the okay, and if your biggest rival is going to give you the okay, then I'll allow it. So you got Max Homa. I'm almost positive JT's going to win the tournament.
I know.
Thomas
So
wins. Max Homer misses the cut.
I actually need to find a way to get JT in my lineup because that is definitely going to happen. But as we bring the draft board down, we'll get ready for some first round leaders. David, we'll start with you. Who are you looking at in the first round leader market?
Yeah, so definitely want to be going morning for me on the first round leader market. It does look like there's some possibility of high winds on Thursday afternoon and some thunderstorms coming through. Those same thunderstorms look to hang around on Friday, so it's really difficult to pick which weather edge is going to end up having the advantage, because I do suspect we'll end up with some delays over the first couple of days. But certainly on the Thursday, I want to go AM for that first round leader market. So for me, I really like Siwoo Kim. You can get him on FanDuel at plus 7,500. Most other places, he's about plus 6,000. Then I really like Matt Kuchar. He can come out and have a really good week this week. You get him at 5,500 over at DraftKings, 5,500 over at MGM as well. JJ Spawn, I think that he can come out and just really light up in one round. 110 to 1 on FanDuel at the moment for him. Again, going off in the morning, I think he's going to have an advantage with the weather there as well. Another name that didn't get mentioned this week, who I think can certainly spike for at least one round. I don't know if he's got the talent to win in this field, but Sam Stevens, we didn't mention him on the show. I think that he's got a lot of potential. He's obviously a rising star. You can get him at plus 125 125,000 at overseas books, and just plus 1,000 over at plus 10,000, at DraftKings and at MGM.
There you have it. I love it. I love it. All right, Byron. Who do you like in the first round leader market this week?
All right. So I've got a guy that's sitting at plus 4,000, 40 to 1, Justin Thomas. I'm just joking. We are not going with Justin Thomas. All right. So we're going to scoot down the board. It's going to be a Corey Connors at 66 to 1 on BetRivers. Sahith Theegala at 66 to 1. JT Poston at 70. Taylor Montgomery at 80. We got Webb Simpson and Wyndham Clark at 80 apiece. And then we got Sam Ryder at whatever the hell his number is. It's way down the board. So I think like 125 to 1. And I just love Sam Ryder. He's the best putter in the world right now, Joel. I love your pick there. He is. Like, if you look since the Tournament of Champions, no one is out putting him right now. And all it takes is one good iron round and he's golden. And
it's like he's getting some big putting results. Like, we're not just talking like he gained 3 or 4 strokes. He's getting 9 strokes gained putting
consistently.
Yeah, it's been impressive. And if he can replicate the ball striking to go with that, I agree. I think Sam Ryder can be a very dangerous play this week. All right, Spence, who are you targeting in the first round leader market?
So, I mean, on any general week, I tend to agree that the morning time is better. I do agree with David that I think you would probably more so prefer to have them in the morning. And I'm giving that answer to say I have 3 players later on. These were just number grabs for me on prices that I thought were way too high. So I took Tony Finau at 48 to 1 on FanDuel. I took Sungjae Im at 45 to 1 on FanDuel. And I took Russell Henley at 60 to 1 at BetMGM.
Boom, there you have it. I love it. For me, I am adding, because I really like the call, Sam Ryder to my first round leader market at 110 to 1. To go with him, I also like a guy we spoke about a lot already tonight, Wyndham Clark. At 80 to 1 is a big number. I think he can come out and have a hot first round in that first round leader market. And then to go back up to the more favorite plays in this, I like Tyrrell Hatton at 50 to 1. And I like, again, another one of David's picks, Colin Morikawa at 35 to 1. That's a wrap for tonight. I'm really excited for this tournament. I do think there's a little bit of a Masters hangover just in general in the industry. I think it's a great week for us to attack. There's a fully loaded field. It's going to be a fun tournament to watch. Byron, big thank you for coming on tonight and drafting with us. Your insight was incredible. I'm interested to see where this new rivalry between you and Spencer goes. It's certainly very entertaining. We'll definitely have you back on again. Good luck to you. Did I forget anything, fellas?
I mean, we didn't speak about Jordan Spieth at all today, and he's the defending champion. He's just had another great week at the Masters, and he could win.
He is
Again.
confirmed tired. That we know. He's tired.
We do know. He said he's tired,
He's
which
tired.
probably also means that he'll win.
But I will say that probably means he's going to go under-owned because he said he was tired. And I mean, he's playing. I'm sure he's what is he, 30 years old? I'm sure he can play more golf. So I probably think the ownership is going down more than it probably should because he said he was tired.
What ownership do you guys see on him right now?
I had Spieth as the lowest over 10K, and I have him at about 18%.
Yeah, I have him at 17%, but I've seen that trending down too. Like I wouldn't be, I don't know where that's going to land, but I mean, I still tend to think that that's too much. Like if you could tell me he was going to be 10%, I'd be more intrigued, but I don't think we're going to get there.
I do. I have 18%. I think that's going down. So right now it feels like a big question mark. So don't forget to go into Discord. Steven will be posting the ownership article on Wednesday. It's the most accurate one. You'll get a better idea of your ownership. It is going to be very important when making your picks this week. Good luck and sports.